Hi, I'm Ken Merbler, welcoming you to another in our series of sales tips. What I want to talk about today is cold calling. I've been in the consulting and sales business for over 30 years, talked to a lot of professionals, a lot of people that have been very successful. One of the things that they have a problem with, though, is cold calling. And what they have is a fear and a lack of confidence. So today, what I would like to do is to give you 5 points so that you can structure your cold calling process and have a better achievement, so you can make those sales goals that you're given on a quarterly basis. The 5 points that I want to talk about today are what is cold calling? I'd like to set kind of a foundation so we all understand it the same way. Secondly, I'd like to help you overcome your fear and lack of confidence so you become more comfortable with the idea of making that cold call. Thirdly, I'd like to talk about a question that I'm asked many times, and that is, how many calls do I have to make to get a meeting and maybe to get a sale? And we'll talk about the parameters on that and some recommendations. Fourthly, we'll talk about the planning of your cold calling process, and it is a process. And lastly, we're going to talk about improving the odds of your cold call process. Now let's talk about each one of these points, but drill down a little bit more to give you some perspective of what it takes to be successful. First one, as we said earlier, is what is cold calling? Cold calling really is the first step in your business development process. If you think of sales from left to right, we've got to fill the funnel. And business development is key to that and developing new accounts. So cold calling helps us pick up that telephone, call that new customer, that net new customer we need, our boss is asking us about, and set that meeting so that we can put that one in our funnel and move on. So that's the first step, cold calling, first step in business development. Second is overcoming your fear and lack of confidence. And I think everything I've read and the professionals I've talked to, this is the #1 challenge for them. So when I think about this, I used to think in school when I took a test in university, in high school, God, I'm scared to take that algebra test. Why was I scared to take that algebra test? I wasn't prepared. I didn't practice. I didn't do enough equations, so I wasn't ready. Same thing in cold calling. One of the fears is that we're not prepared and we really haven't done our homework in order to be successful. So that's the first thing we need to start doing, is a little bit of practice and preparation. We need to develop that script that you and I can rely on in talking to that potential new customer, so that I feel 100% committed to what I'm telling him or her, and I can get that meeting. And lastly, we need to really overcome this idea of rejection. A lot of people, when they're on the telephone and the customer says, "No, I'm not interested," take it as personal rejection. It's not personal. It's business. They're just not ready, timing, etc. Put them down and call them again, but don't take it personal. So that's 2 of the points, of the 5 points. Next is, how many cold calls do I need to make? Good question. There isn't any real good answer to that. There's some parameters. I'll give you some examples. As an example, if you look at the top executive, CEO, COO, CFO, the top echelon of a company, it's going to take more calls to secure a meeting with those people. As you go down in the organization, it's going to take less calls. Example, if I have the CEO I'm after, it could take 100 calls a day, 500 for a week, in order to have 2 or 3 meetings. It could take that many. By the way, if I'm really good at this, it'll take less. So if I'm better at cold calling, I feel more comfortable, my voice is there, I'm reading the customer's voice inflection, then I'll do better. But typically, if I'm looking at a CEO, I'm looking at 100 calls. If I'm looking at the purchasing person, maybe I'm looking at 25, 30 calls a day, so it depends on what level. That's the determinant. But you have to be committed and dedicated to it. All right, let's go to step number 4, and that's planning the cold calling process. I said earlier you need to get a script, and really what you need to have is a great script, a script that you yourself can believe in, as well as the customer. It's something that you have faith in, that you know is true, and you can really stand behind it. That, by the way, lowers your threshold of fear and gives you more confidence. You need to think about, where should I do this cold calling? I don't want to do it in a bullpen with 30 other people yelling, screaming, telling off-color jokes, etc. I need to go to a quiet office, and I always like to put a mirror in front of me. You know why? because I'm on the phone, I can't see expressions, but I can see my expression. I want to be smiling, I want to drive energy into the phone conversation, and I want to be listening, and that creates a good environment for that particular process. Lastly, in planning, I want to schedule it. And then here's, to me, very, very, very key. A lot of salespeople say, well, you know, I'll do the cold calling when I get a chance. I'm going, no, 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 no. You do the sales calling on a scheduled basis. Every morning from 9:30 to 11:30 or 2 to 4, whatever your time, you are scheduled to make cold calls, and that's important or it'll never get done because you do fear it. So that's the fourth point. Fifth one is improving the odds of being successful in cold calling so you can, in fact, achieve your goals. There are 4 P's to this. The first one is planning. By that, again, I'm talking about what facilities do I need to have, the office, etc. What activities do I need to do to get ready for this? Do I need a database, a contact database that I can call? All that has to be brought together so that you can execute. So planning is the first P. The second one is preparation. And by that I mean, what's your attitude? For instance, a lot of times before I get on the phone, I get down and do some push-ups, I lift some weights, I have another cup of coffee, and I begin to project when I'm on the phone some power, some enthusiasm, some energy, and that's preparation, getting ready for that call physically. The third P would be practicing. So I planned, I prepared, and I want to practice. I'm going to get my buddy, maybe a senior salesperson, and I'm going to practice with him in role play so that he can give me objections and I can think, oh, okay, how I can respond to that objection so that I can secure the meeting that I want to have. And lastly, and probably, if not the most important, is perseverance. And that means I'm not a quitter. It means I keep going, I make another call, I get some rejection, take a break, have a cigarette, hopefully not, maybe a drink of water, a Coke, and I get back at it. You know, I was watching the U.S. Open the other day, and 2/3 of the people out there hadn't won a tournament all year. They're persevering. They don't quit, and eventually they will win. So in today's sales tip, we've talked about cold calling. We've talked about the idea of what it is, first step in business development. We talked about overcoming your fears and lack of confidence. We've talked about how many calls you need to make, again, up and down the organization. We talked about the importance of planning your process, and lastly, improving your odds. So good luck with this tip, and I look forward to being with you again in the near future. Thank you very much.